Salisbury, 2 a.m. Mount Barker, 4 p.m. Wherever, whenever you're unfortunate enough to have an accident, One Crash Repairer provides a free pick-up, quote and delivery service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. JV Crash. And with JV Crash, you have the benefit of over 20 years experience, all the very latest technology, and a good reliable loan car, free. JV Crash, for a perfect job every time.
Yes, I'm right down with Peter Holmes on the front of the grid for the HQ race, JV Crash Repairs, and JV Crash Repairs, of course, your sponsor, Peter, so very appropriate you're going to lead them away for the first opening session of this 1993 Australian Grand Prix meeting.
That's right.
And you're also hoping to do a little bit better than perhaps the 3-hour race last weekend.
Yes, that's right. The boys have been working hard since we got back on Monday night. We had a little incident and hit the wall, and the boys have been working till late at night every night to get the car back on the grid.
Well, I reckon it's a fantastic job. It's a fantastic advertisement for the sponsor of this race and your sponsor. I mean, that was Sunday night in Melbourne. This is Thursday morning in Adelaide, and the car is looking resplendent.
That's right. They've done a brilliant job, and I'd like to thank JV Crash for doing such a fast and good job.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and of course the HQs are great fun here at the Adelaide circuit, and you get the job of cleaning all the rubbish off the circuit.
Yeah, not a job I'd really like to do, but it's got to be done.
Well, you've got to get pretty quickly into it because you've got your race this afternoon, so you've got to really get your setup right first up.
That's right, that's right. We've just got to suss the track out a bit on the first lap, see how slippery it is, and then get into it.
And, well, we can only wish you all the best for the race, and I hope you do tremendously in this session and get yourself right up the front for the race this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Well, we'll move very quickly back to, in fact, another one of the JV Crash Repair cars, Steve Monteresso. And Steve, now you were at Calder last weekend also, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, we were there.
And you had a slightly better run than Peter in front of you.
Yeah, a little bit better run, but me and Pete actually drove that vehicle, car number 9, and 2 other guys, Steve Ward and Anthony Cavallo, drove this car, and they brought the car home in one piece.
Yes, well, that would have been a little bit easier. I mean, it wouldn't have been any good if you'd had 2 cars to repair in 4 days.
No, that's right. There was a lot of work done on Peter's car, and we thank JV Crash for getting it ready for us, and the boys to put it all back together again.
Yeah, well, I think it's tremendous. We've got to get off the grid now, so I wish you all the best for this session and the race this afternoon. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Well, we got the cars already lined up on the circuit for the practice, the first event here at the Grand Prix track this morning. And Paul Ryan, they look very impressive as we look down the grid and go right back to the southern hairpin.
Well, they certainly do, Tony. A packed field of 39 cars for this event, and it will be very interesting to see with slightly grey skies above. These guys only have a 20-minute qualifying session, so they'd be pretty keen to get a time down early.
They certainly would, and if you look back just 5 years ago, HQs were only just starting down there in Tasmania, and they caused a real riot down there. They attract fields of at least 40 or more to local meetings, and at the present moment there are some 535 logbooks issued for HQ holdings. I think that tells us something about HQs.
Well, you've only got to look at this event here, 40 local cars, and the HQ race that was held at Bathurst this year. They had almost 100 cars competing up there, so the popularity of the class is tremendous, mainly because it is such well, there's really no such thing as cheap motorsport, but it is a very inexpensive and fun way to go racing.
Looking somewhere between 7 and perhaps 20,000 for one of these cars, depending upon just how far they go as we get the green flag and they go on the warm-up lap. The first cars to turn a wheel on the circuit here at the Grand Prix circuit for 1993. Of course, these have got 6-cylinder engines. They have a controlled camshaft. They've maximum valve size. You're not allowed to do any work on the heads at all. It's the original 3-speed gearbox. And there are no fancy items like limited slip diffs or anything of that. They all run on those Goodyear Ducaro tyres from North Terrace Tyres, and the wheels are 7 or 8 steel or magnesium wheels, so there's nothing really fancy about the running gear, as we got one already in trouble right down the back.
It's the Ian Richards car, the cab charge machine. It doesn't look, it looks to have started at the back of the field and got around the hairpin and turned it around, although Ian is now underway. Ian, of course, a former Formula 2 national champion, now competing in the HQ class. Gets away now, the last car on the grid.
Well, we've got spoke cars spread out well over the circuit. We can see them going through Banana Bend at the present moment, and they're hooking around there fairly quickly. That'd be a fairly wide part of the circuit for the HQs to be able to slip around there before they get the hard right hand.
Still the two JV crash cars of Holmes. Holmes is the lead car now as they head down Brabham Straight for the first time. David Lyons there.
Certainly as they go down there, Paul, they get a long stretch down there and really be able to wind those things up before they wind them back. And the traffic coming on to Brabham Straight now, they're all starting to come onto that section of the track, and they'll wind them up down there and then have to wind them in very tight as they get round the right-hander. We're so used in the road traffic conditions to go round that island at Kensington Road, but that's a very tight right-hander, Paul.
It is very tight. I actually had a chance to have a look around the circuit last night. It's very interesting to see how tight it really is. You can get a totally different perspective actually sort of driving around the track. But the interesting thing in this HQ session and in the race this afternoon is the HQs with drum brakes all round, after a while they tend to get just a little bit sloppy on the brakes, and areas such as the end of Brabham Straight and the hairpin now that the cars are exiting, we could see some pretty frantic action by the end of the afternoon.
Well, we certainly will. They'll work those brakes very hard at the end of Brabham Straight. Then they've got to come back into Wakefield Road, into the racecourse entry, and then up to the hairpin on the southern end of the circuit, and the lead cars already around there under the Foster's bridge and going down through that chicane. And of course we're going to get a lot of action down there in the chicane.
You see a lot of one car spun down at the car 45, that is. Giovanni Ciccacioppo has been a new competitor at HQ Racing this year, and he'll be disappointed to turn the car around early in the event before he's actually got a timed lap on the board.
Yeah, that's down at the Malthouse corner that he's spun down there, but he's managed to get everything away all right.
So it's still car number 9, that freshly repaired machine of Peter Holmes. As Tom Norton, as he spoke to Tom Norton before the start of this qualifying session, competed in the 3-hour enduro at Calder Park last weekend, and if certainly that would be a real test of brakes. 3 hours in a HQ should be a pretty, I suppose, despite the fact that he crashed it, would be a lot of work would need to go on to prepare the car for this weekend, regardless of whether you bounce the thing off a wall or not.
Certainly is, and we have a look, the car's spreading well and truly over the circuit now as they're going completely round. In the 19 car is Brendan Forrest. In the white car we've got one of the Gilbert Motor Bodies cars in the pit lane already with the bonnet up, I think.
Car 17, Alan McFarlane.
Yep.
David Lyons is now zipped past Peter Holmes. Now Lyons was the winner of the HQ Master of Mallala event just a couple of weeks ago, and he drove a very clever race at that event, conserved the car early and really come through with a strong run at the finish. Makes his way down to the racetrack hairpin for the second time.
And as we see them coming down the pit straight, these pictures are coming to us courtesy of the 9 Network, and your GPFM TV commentators are Tony Grove and Paul Ryan.
Okay, fastest lap so far has gone to car number 25, John Pengelly. Time of 2:12.70, slightly, it's probably a little bit under a minute slower than the Formula Ones will be going around the track, but still certainly getting around there pretty quickly for a HQ Holden.
A lot of dust down there in the chicane, Paul, as you would have heard Tom talking to the front runner there. A lot of dust to get off this track, and these cars, although the track has been swept, these cars are the first racing cars trying to get some rubber down on the circuit and get a line established. Certainly later on this afternoon when they have the race, there will be some other cars that have practiced, and they'll get a better run at the present moment, and we would expect the times to get quicker as the rubber goes down.
David Lyons second fastest today. His time at 2:13.45. Next up we've got car 2, Steve Moloroso, with a 2:13.777. Car 65 is next. Kim Gray, another one of the leading front runners from Malala. His time 2:14.44. Then it's back to car 9, that repaired car of Peter Holmes with a 2:14.74. And then car 6, which is Peter Ormsby, which is one of his first meetings back this year for Pete. Has been a regular front runner in the past. We haven't seen a lot of him at Malala this year, but his time at 2:14.86.
One thing I find very interesting is to have a look at the suspension of these cars and compare them with the Formula One, how the Formula One cars will clatter around the track. Everything is so tight and so high-tech, whereas the HQs just seem to be rolling along, don't they?
They certainly do, and as we say, the suspension isn't as tight as we have one going straight on at the end of Brabham Straight, that would be.
Anthony Cavallo there.
Yeah, so he managed to miss anything and hooks back into the traffic. But yes, as you were saying, Rob, quite different to a Formula One. Formula One very tight, and we see them bounce and bump, and the sparks coming up, of course, the titanium blocks when they're fully loaded. But these guys really don't notice a lot of difference between full and empty, I don't think.
Okay, let's check the times now as the front runners make their way across the start-finish stripe for the second of their really hot laps. 24, David Lyons has dropped his times. In fact, 25 finds straight back. That's Pengelly, a 2:11.58. So the times are starting to drop every lap as the track becomes a little cleaner and the tyres and everything come up to temperature. You'll find the times will drop further and further.
The other thing, of course, we notice about these HQs is that they're more inclined to use the, well, not use the track edges, but bounce off the track edges more than the ones. It doesn't affect the suspension quite so much, and we can see the tails sliding out as they go around the corners here, back onto the racecourse area particularly.
Good performance here so far for Steve Ward. He's been actually, Steve broke his leg earlier in the season this year, and it's good to see him back in the car. Didn't break the leg in the car, but had to miss a couple of meetings. But he's ended up with third fastest time so far, a 2:12.38. And as we mentioned before, only a 20-minute session, and this is the only session the HQs will get. So it's going to be pretty frantic action by the end of it, because a front row or an early grid position in this event is going to be oh so important.
Well, it's 3.8 kilometres around the circuit. The track record is currently held by Peter Ginman at a 2:08.59. So in that 20 minutes, certainly won't get a lot of laps here. And they're only going to get the one practice before the race this afternoon. So these fellas will certainly want to use all their time out on the track and have a look at them nose to tail, foxing with each other as they come down Brabham Straight, looking for the different lines into that hard right-hander there. And it's 65 who's leading through just at the present moment with a great group of cars behind him. 65, of course, being Kim Gray in the white car. But they're side by side as they come out of Wakefield Road and get back onto that racecourse proper and head towards the southern hairpin there. Too wide as they come in under the bridge and head up the back of the pits there, under the Marlborough Bridge. And who's going to break? We've got 4 and 5 cars as they come around past the Foster sign, side by side this time as they come into the southern hairpin. A group of 4 cars. Look at Halliday making up ground on the inside.
Mike Irwin doing a great job here, having a great battle there with Gray, and Davin Harding also really trying to get in amongst the action.
Haven't they tidied up their driving techniques, Paul, in the last, what, 2.5 seasons? They've certainly realised that all this body damage isn't cheap to fix, and it's time consuming, and they certainly want to fix it. We've just had a new best lap, Paul. That's right, car number 1, Bill Laxton's old 2:11.54. Bill was the top point scorer last year in HQ Racing, and also won the HQ Master of Malala. This year he's found the competition a little tougher. The guys like Gary Baxter was one of the new ones, wasn't he? An ex-motorcycle boy who's done extremely well. And of course, we always have his fan club up there, don't we, on the mound just down from us, and they give him plenty of support up there. I guess they'd be having a look at him in practice this morning. But another lose there by Halliday in 30 in the McDonald's car. He's got the franchise for McDonald's, of course, down at West Lakes, and he's had a big lose there, just waiting for the traffic to go by. That's one of the is really going to be one of the problem areas for the HQs. The 2 hairpins. You see him there off at the start of the start-finish straight.
hard on the brakes, the HQs can get a little uneasy, and I think you'll see a lot of action in this afternoon's race.
Must remind you too that this is not a race. What we're seeing out there now is not a race, believe it or not. This is the qualifying session. The theory is that you get a bit of space between yourself and the other traffic and just try to put down a nice clean lap, the fastest lap you can possibly do for your lap time, to get a time at a grid position in that race. But look at these guys, hammer and tong stuff.
You talk about a clear lap, and we had about 8 or 10 coming out of the end of Brabham Straight at that time. And as we said, it's only a 20-minute session, so they've got a lot of work. They've got to try and get clear and get a good lap. You'll see them come foxing, you'll see them come down Brabham Straight, get a toe down there, and then try and swing them out. And another large group coming up under the Marlborough Bridge round Foster's and into the southern hairpin once again. Everybody trying different lines. As we said, a lap, the record here at 2:08.59, it doesn't give you a lot of laps.
Well, those times are certainly dropping now, Tony. We've got a great battle between car 24, David Lyons, and car 25, John Pengelly. This is a great performance from Pengelly. He's been one of the front runners this year, but you wouldn't expect him to be holding the pole at this stage, a 2:09.8. So that record is going to possibly take a bit of a pounding by the end of the day, as we've got one car into the tyre barriers. That looks to be just at the entrance to Victoria Park.
That's
the same place where Glenn Seaton crashed his Falcon in the touring car race last year.
And also Andrew Jarman. That's Andrew Jarman corner.
93 has also gone into the wall. That's Colin Zeitfield. He was one of the original movers for HQs here in South Australia, along with John Brownsey. So that's disappointing for Colin Zeitfield to touch the wall. Let's hope the damage isn't too serious, that it can be repaired. Certainly won't be repaired for this afternoon unless it's very minor.
Well, you've only got to look at the frantic action where they've repaired Peter Holmes' car in only 3 days. I think you'll find there'll be a lot of frantic work going on in the pits, and you'd have to be a pretty serious sort of accident to knock one of these guys out for the day. They'd be pretty keen to get some racing laps in this afternoon.
All they have between now and 5:05 this afternoon to get there for the race.
You know, wouldn't it be good to see celebrities in HQs? They're still Holdens. So
I think I'd prefer the Calibra somehow. We've got one car coming into the pits. That's one of our female drivers in HQs, Kerry Ann Ryan.
One of 2 that we have running in the field.
So check the times now. 25, Pengelly still has the fastest lap at 2:09.8. Car 54 being Peter Gimmon now. There we go. That name, he really performed well here last year, and he's now back into the action at 2:10.08. Next up, car 24, David Lyons with a 2:10.71. Then Monterosso with a 2:10.77. Then Holmes, car 9, 2:11.10. And then rounding out the top 6, car 44, Chris Frost. Another great performance there, although he has just been bumped out of that top 6 position, replaced by car 60, Davin Harding. So there's a lot of different performers coming to the fore here at the Adelaide Grand Prix circuit, Tony. Some of the front runners who we see regularly up there at Malala are struggling a little bit, and we've got a few surprise names coming up.
Well, I guess a lot of it probably, Paul, depends on those who do a lot of practice, become familiar with the track. Here at the Grand Prix, of course, it's once a year, and I guess it comes back to driver's school. But certainly, as you said, we see some cars in positions perhaps we haven't expected them before.
The likes of Gary Baxter, who's regularly been a front runner and up on the first row, is not in the top 6 at this stage, and he's just one of a number of leading contenders who are just struggling a little bit in this early. Well, now the qualifying session is really into its dying stages now. 14 minutes have been completed.
Well, of course, we've got 6 laps down at this stage, and so they're not going to get a lot of laps in that 20 minutes. As we said, it's only 20 minutes. So I should think at this stage I'll probably get somewhere around about 8 or 9 laps. So not much time, as we've said.
Car 54 now has the fastest time, Peter Gimmon. He's really put the pressure down now, a 2:09.07. So the poleman and the lap record holder, reigning lap record holder, has certainly come into the fore again. The track now starting to clean up a little bit, and the tyres and brakes starting to come up to proper racing temperature. problems there for Kerry-Ann Ryan, as we said earlier, into the pits, a blown head gasket. And that's disappointing. As we see Wayne Pink, car number 42, sponsored by Pink's Vita 10, has had a minor off. And that looks to be at virtually by Banana Bend, up by the Stag Corner.
And they've got 5 minutes left of this practice, or 4.5 now as I speak, so they'll only probably get about another 2 laps in. So it's going to be very interesting to see who gets the final grid positions here for the JV HQ race this afternoon.
Well, check the times again, and as the time ticks by, car 23, Anthony Cavallo, has put the pressure down with a 2:10.35. That's put him into 5th position so far. 4th on the grid today, car 9, Peter Holmes, with a 2:10.22. Car 24, David Lyons, 3rd fastest, a 2:09.46. 25, Pengelly, a great performance there, a 2:09.24. And poleman so far, still 3.5 minutes remaining, car 54, Peter Gimman, with a 2:09.07.
So with about 4 minutes left to go, we've got the cars starting to spread out, and some of them will be looking, now that a bit more rubber's gone onto the track, they'll be looking to find that line and try in a very slip in a very quick time. Watching them as they go through Banana Bend there, and they're using all that road down there as they head down towards the Stag. Just having a look as they come back onto the Hutt Street East Terrace sections, a group up there that are nose to tail.
Only 3 minutes remaining now, so luckily for the HQ drivers that those grey skies have remained grey and haven't opened up onto the track. They'd be pretty pleased about that. I think driving a HQ around here in the wet would be a pretty hairy little experience.
It certainly would be, Paul. If they'd been here yesterday, they would have had a bit of wet traffic. I know somebody who wore their big boots in because they got muddy yesterday, and with those boots that Rob Kelving's wear, he could really get into one of these HQs and push that loud pedal like the rest of the drivers are doing at the present moment there.
Well, still no change to the times. 54, Gimman still the poleman, Pengelly 2nd, then Lyons, Holmes 4th fastest, and we've got a change now. Car 2, Steve Monterosso has moved up, I should say, into 5th position, and Davin Harding in the Diet Coke car, he's moved into the top 6, so he'll be delighted with that effort. In fact, the times are now changing all the time, and this qualifying session in its final moments. Still Gimman, Pengelly still 2nd, then Lyons, Holmes, and car 3, Steve Ward, is now back up into the top 6. He's moved into 5th position.
So as they continue in the last few dying moments of the 20-minute HQ practice session, time starting to tumble a little bit on the screen. Field is spread out, so everybody's looking for that good clear run, a bit of clear air, and get a good time, put them up as far up the grid as they can get. There's no doubt about it with going into the chicane. If you're well up on the grid, that's certainly a great help.
It's going to be frantic action at the chicane for the first time in this afternoon's race. I think you will end up seeing a lot of cars using a lot of curb. It's going to be a fraught and frantic first corner. Still virtually less than a minute remaining. Gimman still the poleman, but what a great effort by the Peter Holmes team. After having that car repaired, badly damaged at Calder last week, they've repaired the car. It now looks an absolute picture, and he's 4th fastest so far in this session. That's a great effort by the boys at JV Crash.
Well, Peter Holmes was 2nd in the CAMS Racing Driver of the Year last year, so that'll give you an idea of the calibre of Holmes. Runs a wheel alignment business here in Adelaide, and has been one of the most successful HQ drivers for quite some time here in South Australia.
In fact, we should be about to see the checkered flag very shortly. There it is, checkered flag. So the drivers that are out on the course remaining still have a chance to possibly, in fact they have. Car 25, John Pengelly, has come up with a 2:08.57 and currently is on the pole. Gimman has been bumped back to 3rd. We'll just check as the final cars cross the start-finish line to see if we have any other changes in the times before we give you the top 3. But so far, Pengelly the pole man, David Lyons second, Ginman third, Holmes still in fourth, then Monterosso and Davin Harding, car number 60.
Elizabeth, 3 a.m. Kensington, 9 a.m. Modbury, 4 p.m. Wherever, whenever you're unfortunate enough to have an accident, One Crash Repairer provides a free pickup, quote and delivery service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. JV Crash. And with JV Crash, you have the benefit of over 20 years experience, all the very latest technology, and a good reliable loan car, free. JV Crash, for a perfect job every time.
And up above the Adelaide Grand Prix circuit, we have 3 parachutists coming down in these rather breezy conditions, and the lead parachutist is, of course, streaming behind him. The lovely banner there from our sponsors for the HQ Challenge, JV Crash Repairs. Despite the rather breezy conditions, they're going to endeavour to land on the grid, as I understand it. At this stage, though, it looks like they might be heading for the parklands. A little bit difficult to tell. A little bit concerned about the wind. The helicopter that they jumped out of a little while ago, they streamed some paper out of the helicopter a little while ago to try and get some idea of the drift, and the first parachutist is down on the grass just on the edge of the pit's hairpin. We're still waiting for the parachutists with the JV Crash Repairs banner, and it looks like they're all 3 of them are going to aim for that area on the outside of the pit's hairpin. They're just circling around now, heading down. I can see the parachute staff have got a person standing down there with a long streamer, I guess, to give them an aiming point, and looks like they're just about going to make it at this stage. The HQ's lined up on the grid here. The parachute is now getting very, very close, being buffeted around by this wind, and those of you down on the hairpin on the pit straight, what about when they get down safely, giving them a big hand?
Peter Brock, welcome to Adelaide.
Thank you.
Must be a while since you've driven one of these.
Just thinking about that, actually. Last one I drove it had drum brakes and 3 on the tree, and must have been about 15 or 20 years ago, but what about a bit of nostalgia, of course, to see these HQs back here again. It's amazing, isn't it?
Sure is. You probably drove one of these to the drive-in back in those days.
I did, and I won't even look in the back seat to get some memories of what occurred at those drive-ins in those days. But a great old car, and a bit of nostalgia, I suppose, for a lot of people.
Sure. You're speaking on behalf of JV Crash Repairs. Why did JV Crash choose to sponsor the HQ racing event?
Well, JV Crash Repair, of which John Vernick is the managing director, has been really wrapped in these HQs for a long, long time. I mean, he sponsors a couple of the cars. You can see this rocket getting around there. I think he's, at the moment, 4th and 5th on the grid, and I think they're probably looking pretty good. I suppose he likes them because they're the first of the real new look Holmes. You know, they sort of came out of the blue, and all of a sudden, and they're a bit of a classic nowadays. They're quite a good shape. Yeah. He likes them.
So, Brocky, what do you think it is about the HQ that makes them so popular with the general public?
I suppose everyone is looking for that feeling of familiarity, or perhaps the feeling that there goes me, but for the grace of God. And they look at a HQ and think, yeah, I used to have one of them, or I could get one, or my mate's got one, or something like that. They recognise it. And it's one of the reasons why touring car racing, I think, has had this great amount of interest for probably 20 or 30 years now in Australia. People love seeing cars that they reckon they can buy, get out there and get around the track. They're very close racing, cheap to get on the track. A lot of young, unknown drivers are getting out there having a go, and I can tell you that a lot of us who are involved in the professional side of it, we're actually treating HQ racing a little more seriously than when it first started. When it first started, we thought, oh, yeah, HQs, bit of crash and bash, waltzing around the corners, the old HQs, but they handle pretty well. There's a lot of driving skill involved, and we're looking for young talent amongst a lot of the drivers coming through. We're not exactly blind to HQs. Sure.
I guess JV Crash is the perfect sponsor for this type of racing, judging by the type of driver I've seen on the track.
JV Crash, I think, have found their niche in life, really, with HQ racing. I mean, not that the Group A cars are going to provide some spectacular action, but HQs, because you've got a mix of driving skill, you've got that closeness of racing, and funnily enough, the lack of horsepower means that to overtake, you've got to try and do it some fairly undesirable places at times. So JB Crash, yes, I think that probably sums it up for the spectators particularly. It's going to be a lot of fun and games.
Well, again, welcome, Brocky, and have a good time at the Grand Prix.
Thank you.
10 seconds, and there are 39 HQs on the grid for the first event here at the Grand Prix circuit in 1993. It's all been practices up till now, and these guys have got a little bit more rubber on the track. We get a green, and they're away, and it's going to be Ginman who gets away first. Pengelly there into second. Down through the chicane they come, but Ginman's got it all lined up. Pengelly in the dark car holding on to second. And a gaggle of cars coming under the Foster's Bridge and heading down towards Wakefield Road.
Good start there from David Lyons. Almost got up the inside of John Pengelly, but Pengelly fought back fiercely and cut straight across Lyons' nose. He'll sit there in second spot. Then we go back to the two JV Crash cars, but still that man, Peter Ginman, leading the way. First of 8 laps the journey, opening up a bit of a gap already as they head now onto the Hutt Street East Terrace area, heading up towards Banana Bend and Stag Corner for the first time.
Coming around out of Banana Bend and heading towards the Stag, as we say, they're 3 and 4 wide in some areas. They line up as they come through the Banana Bend, and it's still Ginman leading them from Pengelly and then Lyons. We haven't seen anybody come unstuck, I don't think, as yet. Just watching them come down, and they're all being fairly tidy at this stage in single line as they come around Rundle Road or Jones Straight and head down towards Brabham Straight. And I think if we're going to see some action, it will be at the end of Brabham Straight as they go into that hard right-hander into Wakefield Road.
Well, we just saw one of the cars, Tony, bouncing across the curb. I believe it might have been the VIP Motors car of Graham Bolter, but down they come this time into the hairpin for the first time. It's still Ginman. Pengelly holds sway in second spot, then it's Lyons, then it's back to Holmes, Davin Harding, then back to Monterosso. But they were saying, talking to Baxter earlier, the brakes are not so much of a problem down at that southern hairpin, because all the way down that long Brabham Straight, they get a chance to cool off. Brakes are a bigger problem through the twisty parts of the circuit.
Well, round onto the racecourse part of the circuit and round under the Marlborough Bridge, head up towards the southern hairpin, coming round to complete their first lap this time around. And we've still got the car of Ginman, but Pengelly on his tail. As we said, he's shone here at the Grand Prix circuit today, and he's very pleased to be up there. Lyons in second slot, and have a look at them coming out. Everybody doing everything the right way at the present moment as they come out of the southern hairpin and head down under the Foster's Bridge and through into the chicane, out onto Wakefield Road. Still Ginman, Pengelly and Lyons in that order. And it would be one of the JVC crash repair cars next. That would be the number 9 car, which is the car of Peter Holmes.
Then we got Davin Harding is next. He's up into 5th spot, followed closely behind by Steve Monterosso, who'd be pretty disappointed to drop that spot to Harding early in this event. Good start too from Steve Ward, who's performing well, followed up by Anthony Cavallo. So not many changes in the field so far in the early going of this event, but a lot of charges trying to fight their way through the field, and we'll try to check on the progress of Gary Baxter, starting from way back in 28th spot. We normally expect to see him at the front of the grid, but still Ginman holding sway at the front and opening up a bit of a gap.
Well, certainly 1 down and 7 to go, and getting a little bit untidy, some of the tail enders as they go out of Banana Bend. And Baxter has moved up into 29th now as the cars are coming out of the Stag and into Jones Straight.
Challenge here back in the field. We've got a great battle here between Harding and Holmes. Harding has come into that line very tight. Holmes will stay wide and possibly try to cut back as they head through the hairpin, but Harding has made the move, so he's really on the charge. He's got JV Crash all in his mirrors, Holmes and Monterosso. Monterosso now really challenging his teammate, trying to find a way past, but Davin Harding is really trying to make a move now through the field.
Certainly Harding is another one who's had a fairly good year at the circuit here at Mallala, but there's a 3 or 4 for the tail enders wide coming out of Brabham Straight that time. But our race leaders already coming out of the southern hairpin again under the Foster's Bridge, and it's still Ginman who's leading them through. Just having a look
We've had a change there with the JV cars.
Yeah, we've lost Pengelly somewhere, I think, haven't we? No, he's there.
Monterosso has made a move and got past his teammate. Moves up into fourth spot.
No, Pengelly is there. That's okay. I just lost him for a moment. Well, so it's Gidman, Pengelly, and then in fourth spot the 24 car, which is a car of David Lyons.
Then it's back to Davin Harding. Then Monterosso. Then Holmes, who is starting to drop back. Then back to car 3, Steve Ward, and car 23, Anthony Cavallo. 2 laps have been completed, 8 laps the journey, and the fastest lap going to car 54. That man at the front, Peter Gidman, with a time of 2:09.88. Not quite down to the lap record time of a 2:08.59, but still settling in early and opening up a bit of a gap.
Certainly, Gidman in the 54 car, as he said 2 times, had a layoff. He's just managing to stay in front enough of Pengelly as they go down the Jones Straight towards the Malt Tower. Probably about a 4 or 5 length car lead. Pengelly is in a comfortable position, a similar position back then to the third car, which is 24, which is David Lyons. But back further from that, they all seemed spaced out fairly well. They seem to be respecting these concrete walls fairly well.
I think Lyons could be the man to watch, as we saw at the Malala Masters, where he started from 12 and gradually picked his way through the field. Now he's in a lot better position, although he hasn't got as much time to make up, as we've got Monterosso now on the charge. He's moved past Harding, and bit of a touch out there as they go through. Leant on Harding very hard to try to force his way through. So Monterosso is another one on the charge. He's got past Holmes, got past Harding. Now Monterosso and Lyons will be the 2 to watch. Those 2 are starting to make up ground.
Certainly Harding sandwiched between the 2 JV crash repair cars, and of course Harding with the new colour scheme as well. I didn't recognise him first up this morning, but now Harding coming back onto the tail of Steve Monterosso there. He wants to get that position back, and also the blue and yellow car there is right on his tail. That's the competition secretary for the HQs, whose name's Steve Ward.
Fastest lap 2 to Gidman. He's increased his time at 2:08.75. Ward sitting there back in 7th position with Anthony Cavallo right on his tail. But look at Lyons, and Pengelly is also now right on the tail of our race leader Peter Gidman. We're going to see a great battle at the front within the next couple of laps.
So they've completed 3 of the 8 laps, and the pressure is really on now as we watch them going down towards the banana bend. Pengelly still holding on to that second place. Interesting thing that Norm Pengelly's father used to be a mechanic for John Walker some years ago with the 5000, and we looked for a charge with Harding trying to get past Steve Monterosso as he go round banana bend. Not there. Steve Ward also trying to get past the second of the JV cars.
Look at Harding. He's right on Monterosso's tail as they head down Jones Straight. Very important to get through onto Bravon Straight cleanly and neatly. If you can get the fastest terminal speed through that part of the course, you can be well placed to make a pass for the lead or pass for position at the end of Bravon Straight. Let's try to pick them up now as they head down Bravon Straight. And look at them. They're weaving all over the course. Still Monterosso there in second, but Harding back in fourth, I should say. But Harding is right on his tail. Let's see if he'll pull out to try to make the pass this time. Not this lap. Holds sway back there in 5th position. But it's still that man, Peter Gidman, virtually once-a-year racer. Comes out, wins last year, track record, and one getting very badly out of shape as they head on to Bravon Straight.
So as we pick up the leaders, how's those times looking, Paul? We'll see if we're going to get a new record here as we watch them come around the back of the circuit past the Foster's sign there. And it's still the car of Gidman's leading through, but the dice between Steve Monterosso and Davin Harding at this stage as they go down onto the pit straight there. That's where all the action is happening.
Well, we got very close to a record. Gidman's now to a 2:08.60. The record is 2:08.59. So you can't get much closer than that. But David Lyons has come up and clocked second fastest with a 2:08.70, so a 1/10 of a second behind. Then 25, which is the Pengelly car, is 6/600th of a second behind. Harding is also clocking some good times too with a 2:09.21.
Harding just taken Steve Monterosso there, so Harding up into 4th place now. But it could be a run at the front, Paul, because it's still Gidman, Pengelly, in those front two position, and then the car, the 24 car of David Lyons, and it still could be a run to the line. But look at that action-packed field back behind Harding, Monterosso.
And Anthony Cavallo also putting in a great performance. He's got past Steve Ward. It is now right on the tail of Holmes. Of course, that car of Holmes repaired from his accident at the 3-hour Enduro at Calder last weekend. Possibly you'd be working very hard to try and get the car perfect, but there'd have to be a couple of little imperfections, a couple of little glitches left over from last weekend, and maybe they'll start to show out throughout the course of the race. But have a look at them. They're spread out all over the back straight. No one looking to let anybody pass. And have a look at Harding and Monterosso. They're virtually right over by the concrete on the wrong lanes. They swap back over now to try to make their way around the course. But Ginman still holding the lead. He's looking pretty comfortable at this stage as we've got one gone around.
Wayne Pink in 46 from Clare, the Mitre 10 at Clare.
46 is actually his Ginman's teammate, which is Peter Nolan.
So we have a yellow flag out there around the malt house somewhere. Sponge is coming around malt house, so we have a yellow flag out there. That's Wayne Pink, but he's got it round in the 46 car. He's underway. Nolan, I'm sorry, in 46, not Pink. So as we pick up our race leaders once again, and we have 5 of the 8 laps completed. And Dor, we're starting to do a bit of curve hopping now as we come through the S's. So it's still Gidman leading them through from Pengelly, and then in 4th spot it's still the 24 car of David Lyons.
And we have a new track record as well too, John Pengelly, so he's not going to give this one up without a fight. His time now at 2:07.85, so 3 laps only remaining, and he's not letting Gimman run away with this. He's going to put the pressure on throughout the course of this event, and Gimman will want to be very careful. One slip and he's going to have Pengelly all over him.
Have a look at them slinging through Banana Bend. They started off fairly sedately, Paul. Now they're starting to throw them down. They know that they've completed 5. It'll be 6 next time around. They can start putting a little bit of pressure, perhaps punishing their brakes just a little bit more than they were. But Gidman so far having led them from start to finish. And then it would be the car of John Pengelly.
Pengelly and Lyons. So it's really a race amongst these 3. You can't see, unless something drastic happens, this trio have opened a big gap back to the next car, which would be Steve Monterosso, who's got back past Davin Harding. But the 3 of them running 3 astern as Neil Corey gets very sideways and out of shape as he enters the Brabham Straight. Still only a couple of laps remaining, but there's a big pack behind that leading trio. We'll try to check the gap next time around. Monterosso still in 4th. Then it's Harding, then Holmes, then Cavallo. Back to Steve Ward will be next. But it's still Gimman. He's got a 3 or 4 car length gap back to Pengelly.
Just having a look coming through Brabham there. A couple of the cars getting fairly sideways. Gilbert Motorbody's car getting crossed up a little bit there as he came out. But certainly the front 3 leaders are going quite strongly at this stage as they follow each other. It's still Gidman there from Pengelly, and then 24 David Lyons.
Well, that track record now standing of Pengelly of a 2:07.85. Lyons second fastest at 2:07.99. Gimman's time at 2:08.02. So all those 3 cars running under the existing track record. Only 2 laps remaining. Time is running out for John Pengelly. Can he bridge that gap up to Gimman? Time will tell as they make their way onto Hutt Street for the penultimate time. Next time round, they will be, when they cross the start-finish stripe, they will have 1 lap to go. But Gimman, certainly Tony's looking pretty safe at this stage.
That's a fairly good lead by HQ standards. We said they're standard 6-cylinder Holdens. You can't do anything. The camshafts are controlled. They run 7 and 8 inch tyres, Ducaro tyres from North Terrace tyres. So it's a fairly even amount of work you can do them. A lot depends on how you set them up and the driver ability. And certainly at the present moment, Peter Gidman, who hasn't had a drive for all the season, as we lose number 7 going into Banana Bend, and that is Dave Melling, and he goes right round. Number 12 also goes round, which is Michael Roll. So he goes round. traffic managed to get by.
Car 12 has gone around there.
Yeah, I flicked him off halfway through.
It being...
So the 12 roll still stationary there, so pick up the race leader, and it's still the car of Gidman's at this stage.
Pengelly's starting to close that gap though. He realises that it's crunch time now. Only one lap to go. Peter Gidman hard on the brakes. Racetrack hairpin. Wheels the car 54 around onto the start-finish straight for the final time. Pengelly is now right on his tail. He's shaking the lines loose a little. Across the start-finish stripe they go into the chicane. Pengelly really has the bit between his teeth.
If anything's going to happen, this is going to be the lap that it will happen, with Gidman leading from Pengelly, not by much, but probably about two lengths. Down they go into Wakefield Road, heading towards East Terrace, a right-hand turn there.
Gidman made a little mistake through the chicane that last time round for this final time. Got up on the curbs. That has allowed Pengelly to close that gap a little bit. He's right on his tail. You can see him really throwing the car around as they head onto Hutt Street, East Terrace for the final time. Up they go through Banana Bend. Gidman holding on for the life of it. Pengelly chasing very hard, throwing the car as hard as he can through Banana Bend, up to Stag Corner, onto Jones Straight.
This is going to be a do-or-die effort as they go down Jones Straight this time, and they've got that big right-hand sweeper out of Jones onto Brabham Straight, using the ripple strips on the edge, and as they come down there, Gidman's giving it everything, but Pengelly's hanging on to him as they come down, heading down towards the far end of Brabham Straight. This is where we would expect to see a move, I think, if we see anything at all. And certainly Pengelly pulls out to look for run past to Gidman. Can he get it as they get down onto the turn? Gidman moves out wide. Pengelly has slipped through, taken the lead, gone too wide. Gidman moves back side by side as they come out of that turn into Wakefield Road. They'll come back onto the racecourse entry, and it's still Gidman who just manages to hold them off at this stage.
He's run wide.
Pengelly's up in the inside. Gidman's run wide as they come back under the Marlborough Bridge. Pengelly, the man who's holding the lap record at the present moment, head toward the southern hairpin.
Final time, this is it. Peter Gidman, crunch time. Can he get that lead back? He is led virtually from start to finish. Runs wide on the through, and Pengelly's run wide. Checkered flag is out. Drag race to the final line. Pengelly and Gidman. Gidman and Pengelly. Checkered flag at the ready, and it's... oh! Pengelly has the arm out the window, punching the air in delight, and I reckon he might have done it. We'll check the timing as they've come across the start-finish line. It is, in fact, car number 25, John Pengelly. What a fantastic performance as we looks like Steve Ward, I think, way off the track onto the grass as they make their way down to the checkered flag. But Tony Grove, John Pengelly, what a fantastic performance. Really got the bit between the teeth and chased him down hard, and that was a heck of a race. And if that is any indication of some of the racing action we're going to see here at the Grand Prix this weekend, it is going to be one fest of motorsport excitement.
Well, if you...
Morford Vale, 10 p.m. Salisbury, 2 a.m. Mount Barker, 4 p.m. Wherever, whenever you're unfortunate enough to have an accident, One Crash Repairer provides a free pickup, quote and delivery service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. JV Crash. And with JV Crash, you have the benefit of over 20 years experience, all the very latest technology, and a good reliable loan car, free. JV Crash, for a perfect job every time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've just seen the JV Crash Repairs HQ Holden Challenge, which I'm sure would have stirred feelings of nostalgia in some spectators. And it's my pleasure now to introduce the Director of JV Crash Repairs, Mr. John Verdnick.
Good afternoon. Congratulations to the organisers, fellow sponsors, and all concerned to assist in making the Adelaide Grand Prix possible. We at JV Crash are proud to be part of the Adelaide Grand Prix, the ever-popular HQ Challenge. This was a great race, and JV Crash are proud to be part of this event. I would like to congratulate all drivers who participated in today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll ask you now to present the trophy to the winner of the JV Crash Repairs HQ Holden Challenge, John Pengelly in car number 25. And John, you might care to say a few words.
Well, it's a pity the Peter Holmes and Steve Montross didn't win today, but I'm happy to see John Pengelly win today anyway. Thanks.
Well, firstly, it's the first time standing on one of these microphones, so I'd like to thank John Verdnick certainly for putting this event on, or sponsoring the event, I should say. My all-time sponsors, Salisbury Motor Wreckers, and yes, Mr. Cook, and Gilbert Motor Bodies, Sprint Graphics, and to Leanna, my father. That's for you. Thank you.
Well done, John. And Mr. Verdick will now present the trophy to the second place getter in car number 54, Peter Ginman. And third, David Lyons in car number 24. And now we'll ask the JVC Crash Repairs girls to present the drivers with their bottles of champagne.